Hello, my name is Tyler White. I am a rising junior at Swarthmore College, and my presentation today is Preserve, Digitize, and Catalog, Reclaiming Lost History. The importance of my work is really centered around understanding that we are on stolen land, and the majority of the people that helped build this land have faced racism and were stolen and brought here to do so. The importance of this project is really centered around how do we preserve and digitize the stories and the histories of people who were industrial workers, people who come from backgrounds of immigrants from to different marginalized communities, and really make the importance of their life stories and what they contributed more accessible via a public utility and a website. Dr. Christine Wally, who is an anthropologist at MIT, was the lead person behind this, in which her project Exit Zero really looked at the different ways that we can think of industrialization, but it really thought and saw that through the perspective of her lived experience as being the child of steel workers. Jeff Soik, who is a media artist, helped put together the website and the platform, as well as working with Derek, who's an archivist, as well as Lauren, who is an MIT grad student. My contribution to this work was transcribing letters from World War I, as well as coordinating artifacts and mementos from African American communities that were not allowed to live there in that neighborhood, so a majority of their presence is really missing. I'd like to center in on one of the many research projects that I completed, most of them really being centered around telling the stories of African-American folks who were really a lot of the leaders in terms of union strikes, as well as class struggles. And I also had the opportunity to take oral histories, home videos, and other digital media and really edit them and deduce them down to be able to be usable and accessible and understandable and serviceable on the website. But really looking at Lee Tisdale, who was one of the 10 folks who was killed during the Memorial Day Massacre. This happened in the late 30s and was really a major struggle of union workers against their union companies, standing up for more rights and better conditions for their working. The understanding of this and really understanding why I would want to engage in really centering the stories of African Americans is because most class struggles are heavily understood as being a white struggle and being a phenomenon of whiteness, and really that the agency that these African Americans such as Lee Tisdale took in standing up and organizing and coming together and bringing people together to be in civil resistance to exploitation was really a sense of agency that took their capacity and allowed them to act independently and make their own choices. And to really kind of reposition the understanding of Black labor resistance as not being a new phenomenon and being something that Black folks have been sacrificing their bodies since the Revolutionary War in service of resisting against any kind of exploitation. The methods that I approached to this was a lot of reading and doing scholarly reading around folks like Lee Tisdale, as well as other African-American leaders from that time period of the 1930s and 40s. Transcribing, it was quite difficult to read a lot of the cursive of the World War I letters, but really seeing that as a way of problem solving. So trying to understand the ways in which people were saying things and understanding context clues, as well as producing my own writing of kind of taking all the information that I got from both the African-American leaders and the World War I folks and other postcards that were sent between people within this neighborhood of Southeast Chicago, and kind of following up in some capacity with African-American families through churches, through organizations, and any contact that we could get that could kind of lead us to getting more and more artifacts to really showcase their contributions to this movement and to industrialization. The goal of this project was really to accurately and authentically represent the lives of those who came before me, and to really understand that the ways in which they were able to stand up for themselves is an act of liberation that I think the late great Toni Morrison said, which is freeing yourself was one thing, claiming ownership of that freed self was another. So a lot of my findings and conclusions are honestly understanding and trying to grapple with the ways in which these amazing individuals who were really far ahead of their times engaged in resistance, and how that is a ways in which I'm able to live and we're all able to live in a more accepting and freeing society. And in saying that, I just want to say thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope that you keep up interest in this and you're able to check out the website once it's finished. It was a pleasure, and it is still a pleasure as the work is ongoing. I wish you well and Godspeed.